Looking for something, Hunt? Come to tell me to fuck off again? I don't know what you're talking about. He did something. He stole his employer's goods and another lorryman's job. You should be thankful for the tip. Listen up, fuckwits. You don't scare me. You cops don't run Revachol West. You don't run Martinez. You don't run anything.
No. He means La Puta Madre.
A legendary, and not in a good way, crime boss from Jamrock. Controls what is probably the most powerful organized crime outfit in Revachol West.
Yeah, him.
Then I presume you are familiar with his peonies.
Yeah, they're his little bitches. He's got them all over the unions.
Not just the unions. He has peonies everywhere. Some say he even has them in the RCM. Dirty fucking peonies who'd do anything for him. Multi-ethnic drug addicts.
The lieutenant adopts a rodentine quality. Be cool, sire. He's getting into this.
You're not peonies. You wouldn't be investigating a drug thing if you were.
No, of course not. We are not peonies. But if we were, and one of Madre's drivers were to be stealing from him, then it's a good peony's job to find out who that is.
He's surprisingly good at this. Not bad at all. Look at him lurching.
It's not a hard job. It won't take a long time. It won't make Padre Madre angry. But a stupid fucking racist is standing in the way, protecting this fucking thief.
I'm not scared of you or the mob. I'm under the protection of the Lorrymen and Carters Guild.
You've seen that corpse in the ceramic armor there. Did his shitty little guild protect him?
Nah, you wouldn't just leave him out there if you...
The lieutenant turns and gives you a barely perceptible nod. Be careful. This man's still got some fight in him, by the looks of it. It won't be easy to break him.
Looking for something, Hunt? Come to tell...
The main thing is to not overdo it, even when you're trying to scare someone. The most important thing is, how does it look on your resume?
What? What do you think we're doing right now, Runt? We're outside, talking. There's some kind of homo thing?
Okay, that's enough, detective. That's enough. Let's just go and ask Tommy, alright? We are wasting our time here.
Right to work! Right! An old monument stands in the middle.
Can I help you?
Got the 20 real? Good. You got the room for the night, but remember...
You see a set of tire tracks in the brown slush that come.
Kuno's like Kuno's dad? Kuno doesn't give a fuck. Kuno doesn't...
Whoa, what have we here? A bridge with loose nails and rot-infested wood that creaks in the wind. A construction code violation if there ever was one.
True, they never cleaned up the war damage. The rest of Revachol looks better, though. The bridge is fine enough. Locals use it all the time, after all. It's nothing to worry about. Shall we?
Just an ordinary wall. Nothing to see here. Yeah. What?
Why must we stop to look at this wall every time we pass by? We have business to it.
A stone, like any other, lying in a whirl of sleet and mud. Maybe there's something under it. There's a key beneath it, rusty from the dirt.
This must be for the front door. Pity it doesn't have the apartment number on it. This building has hundreds of apartments. We'll just have to go in and see.
This must be it. The basement door is weather-worn. The copper nails holding the upholstery in place have turned green from sea air, and there's a knocker shaped like a lion's head. The leather upholstery is worn and rough against your jaw. You don't hear any movement. In fact, it's oddly silent in the yard around you. No birds chirp. You knock silently. The upholstery muffles the sound. No response comes from the apartment.
I guess no one is in?
You're pretty sure the owner of the apartment isn't here. It's safe-ish.
Let's be honest. This isn't what I joined the RCM for, but every day tells you something new about yourself. Apparently, working with the local union boss to get info on an investigation is not something I'm squeamish about. I mind that the local thug is using the RCM for his busy work. But if this gets us to the bottom of this hanging, then I'm willing to look over it. On the other hand, we could just leave and tell Evrart we opened the door. No one seems to be tailing us to see if we actually did it. Presenting a fabrication is known to get results here and there. You took this task. You make the call.
The door is right here. You can just open it and be done with this. You try to be as silent as you can. It takes a bit of rattling of the handle to loosen the bolt. Finally, the door unlocks with a small clack. Thoughts race through your head. The sound of the key turning still echoes in the yard. Hopefully no one heard. A row of mugs sits on the shelf. Each one depicts a human figure. A dark-skinned woman grinning amidst mysterious symbols. A broad-shouldered man shoveling potatoes, and others. A little ring, Though cheerful, the images on the ceramic make you vaguely uncomfortable. There's something disdainful in the way the curves and lines of the bodies were drawn. It looks like the artist is celebrating diversity, but underneath, he's just making fun of these people. You ain't gonna change someone's mind by calling them a bastard. The lieutenant picks up one of the mugs, then puts it back down with a look of disdain.
I'm beginning to feel better about breaking into this man's apartment.
Yes, your broken mug friend would feel very much at home here. The same humor, the same mocking lines.
There's the missing tin soldier. Whoever lives here might have used the Whirling's container to dump his trash. And now they've drawn the ire of the Union. The plot thickens, as they say.
An interesting little clue. Let's see where this goes. Clues have a way of magically connecting to other clues down the road. Perhaps you should break into apartments more often.
Who knows? I'm not expecting too much from this clothes in the trash lead either way. It might turn out to be some random local matter, but still, a nice coincidence.
You could ask Everard who this person is once you're done here. This is the flag of Revachol, the suzerainty. This isn't just one sun, but there are little suns dancing around the big sun. This is the sevenfold sun miracle. It's an optical atmospheric anomaly the first settlers saw. Happens in cold weather. 6 small suns around the big one. This complex halo phenomena is how old Revachol got its flag.
The tenant is an old-fashioned guy.
By old-fashioned, he means very right-wing. The flag doesn't seem to mind. It's just a colorful fabric with a sun sewn onto it. Like all feudal flags, it looks like a children's drawing.
Yes? What about me? No.
Your brain sends the signal to your lips, but they refuse the order. It's like you're locked.
Something the matter, detective?
What's going on? It's like you're a puppet in his hands. The lieutenant relaxes his eyebrow, and you seem to regain...
Good. Let's...
A row of mugs sits on the shelf. Each isn't just a five-pointed star. It's an inverted white pentagram cradled in a wreath of antlers, the iconography of communism, in other words. The star and antlers was developed in the 6th decade of the last century and quickly adopted by Mazov and the communards during the revolution. Even today, half a century after, the star and antlers retains the ability to evoke hope, disappointment, and fear in equal measure. To symbolize the toppling of the old order. Also, some social democrats were already using it, because white is the color of peace. You see noble aims, but also mountains upon mountains of corpses. They should have taken a more measured approach. Also, you're really smart. The price of idealism, unrestrained by humanism. Never again. What happened here? It will still be accessible through the apartment next to it. That one didn't have a door. Sadly, nothing of great value remains here. Indeed. The bullet is safely sealed away in a plastic bag bearing the RCM stamp. Kim has filled out the label on the bag with the item number, case number, and date and location the bullet was found.
What? Well, if I was the bullet, which I'm not, I would say, find the weapon that shot me. If we find who owns it, we will have likely found who used it, possibly to kill our victim. In conclusion, the more we know about this bullet of yours, the better.
The squashed bullet has some sharp edges where the jacket has split open. It feels cold, even through the bag. You wouldn't ordinarily have cause to handle jacketed bullets. The citizens' militia uses cast bullets only. Little pebbles of metal loaded from the muzzle, usually in a cartridge. The jacket of the bullet is made of a yellowish metal. It has blossomed out to reveal a dark grey core. The base of the bullet is close to 5 millimeters in diameter. You can just about make out a few striations near the base of the bullet. Little hairlines, linear. It feels standard. It's quite destroyed. Some of the fragments are still lodged in the wound.
What can you say about the bullet so far? A jacketed bullet. Okay. It would have been shot from a military-grade breech-loading rifle, not from a muzzleloader, like those typically found on the streets of Martinez.
Highly unusual. The people of Revachol haven't carried breech-loading weapons like this for nearly half a century.
Even the RCM uses ordinary unjacketed conical bullets. This is strange. Very strange. I like this, officer. Strange means unique. Unique means incriminating. We need to find the gun that shot it.
You can't remember what happened last week. What makes you think you're going to remember arcane firearm models? still safely sealed away. You can't remember what happened last. In your hands, you hold 16 Days of Coldest April by Yekaterina Dahl. The cover image shows a row of concrete apartments above which span a black and white rainbow. Indeed, the book is unusually heavy in your hands, as though the cover were lined with lead. You flip through the book. The pages are thinner than you realized, and the type quite small and tightly set. It's nearly 600 pages long. Real art is dense and difficult. If it didn't feel like you had to wrestle a suicidal bear to get through it, you weren't really reading. The back cover is dominated by a black and white photograph of the author. She can't be much older than her mid-30s in this photograph, and yet, from this cover, the eyes of a sad old woman stare back at you. In cold, detached prose, the author describes a scene from one of the Yugoslavia riots in the 20s. Youths overturned motor carriages and set trash cans ablaze, while heavily armored guardsmen dash in and disperse them in a flurry of baton blows. The Yugoslavia riots took place from 27 to 29. Fueled by ethnic unrest and the state's repressive tactics, these events are often seen as marking the end of a brief period of liberalization known as the Yugoslavia Spring. Like all such periods, it is frequently memorialized in art and literature. As ethnic tensions run wild, a pair of young lovers meet each other on the street. Somehow, in the middle of all the chaos, they manage to lock arms and look into each other's eyes. It would physically hurt you to keep reading. Are you sure? They go through a brief and somewhat awkward love affair, and in the end, they betray each other and succumb to the absurdity of Gradian life. The man becomes a lens grinder, completely abandoning his former existence. He toils through the daily drudgery at the Lenka Polyfabricate. Happiness and fulfillment have eluded him his whole life. And in the end, he has nothing to do but dedicate himself to the craft. She spends the next several decades standing at a conveyor in a Sosnovo fish processing plant. The smell of fish guts slowly seeps into her hair and skin, as every single one of her dreams dies, one by one. The memory of their short time spent together tortures the former lovers ceaselessly until the end of their days. Years pass in solitude, their bodies growing ever more decrepit. As life leaves their remains between the soil sheets, their final thoughts are filled with regret. Ruination has come. The broken arches betray the once grand history of this building. It towered over the harbor until it happened. A great force from the northeast fired into the city. Heavy artillery shelled the coastline. Fired from the water, a straight shot into Revachol. The tenement acted as a defensive wall against the worst of the shelling until it was destroyed, and they had a direct firing line. The wind blows through your hair. The sea breeze cuts around you, high on the balcony as you stare over the edge of the sea. The waves of the Martinez Inlet roll over the fallen remains of the building. The dark waters obscure the better part of the remains. What didn't fall into the ocean was used as scrap. What wasn't used as scrap was thrown into the ocean. Those arches acted as support for something greater than what you see now. Only 3 stories stand where 9 to 12 once did. Restoration has failed. What the shelling took out was never rebuilt. A fleet, the combined armies of Occident and Grad, with Mesk volunteers, a 5-nation army, hundreds of vessels. They massed airships further down in the Bay of Revachol. The artillery was so powerful. The ships not only required gyroscopic stabilization, they were anchored into the ocean floor as well. Many are still there to this day. If you squint, you can just barely see the shadow on the water, far in the northeast. Cannons still ready to placate Revachol. Coalition warship Archer can shoot 50 shells a minute on 20 co-aligned archers. They will reach the city in 58 seconds.
The Coalition. But that was a long time ago. I think we should move on. It's chilly up here.
From the eyes of a seagull, a nest of brown hair not worth the 50-foot dive. From a pedestrian on the dock, a rugged man staring out to sea, mere feet from fatality. From a guest on the balcony of the Whirling in Rags, a silhouette imposing enough to be seen at a distance.
Piggies have learned how to saunter up staircases. I didn't think you could do that with hooves. But here you are. Yeah, I can see that. Cool mutations.
That smell coming from her paint bucket, it's not paint, it's heavy fuel oil. Red-dyed heavy fuel oil is only used in government vehicles, or at least that's the idea.
What did you think I was using? Aquarels? Sucked it out of a cop's fuel tank myself. Back in Jamrock. You ain't seen nothing yet, Piggy Boo.
The pockets of these new jeans are perfect for sticking your hand into. Makes you look cool, calm, and collected. As your hand enters the pocket, your fingers brush against something, soft, yet crinkly. Hey, it's a chewing gum wrapper. It reminds you of the fruity juice of apricots. You should inspect it closer if you have time. Something about the wrapper's texture is familiar. By the way, the raw materials were most likely exported from Seaguy, the apricot suzerainty, and processed in Sur-le-Clay into the apricot-flavored chewing gum loved by kids of today and yesterday. Something about it is familiar, and not only to your fingers. A crinkled chewing gum wrapper. The worn label reads, Tutti Frutti. It smells faintly of apricots with a barely noticeable twinge of cinnamon. You feel compelled to point out that there's nothing fruity about cinnamon. It's a spice derived from tree bark. Can a used wrapper shrug? Seems like that's what the wrapper is doing somehow. This is not about flowers or bark. What is this about? Why are you looking at this wrapper? Good question. There is no answer or secret phrase written on the inside of the wrapper. Yet you're drawn to it. Drawn by regret. Stop before you hurt yourself with a Tutti Frutti wrapper. Throw it away, please. You carefully fold the wrapper into a square before putting it back into your pocket, lovingly even, despite the strange feeling of regret.
Hello again, officers. Have you come to admire my mural? Ooh, not only have you found my address, you've discovered my biggest secret. I'm a coal miner.
She does have eyes that seem to be smeared with coal.
Yes, I keep hoping a shaft will collapse on me, but somehow it never happens. Does anyone in a city like this? It doesn't have to do anything at all. Nothing does. Like me. Right now, I'm doing nothing at all.
The inspiration will come to her once hell is set loose on the streets. It's too calm right now.
Shoot, Piggy.
Give me a moment. The cold never does any good for my bronchitis. I'm fine. Fine. Don't you worry about me. Now, what do you want from me, policeman?
She's the cleaning lady. She knows the floor plan and the residence.
Yes, yes. I know who you mean. The scrawny boy who's always smoking like the devil, right?
Somewhere in the building, a child starts crying. You hear a radio tuned to a talk show and someone taking a shower.
What's he in trouble for? Talk?
What was so funny about that?
He lives upstairs in room 28. Go to the balcony. It's one of those doors there. He's usually home in the evening.
Thank you. We should go check out his apartment on the balcony. See if he's home.
I'm no one. Just an old woman who cleans these hallways. If you can call it living. I have a little room upstairs right next to the coal room. It's barely bigger than a closet. But I don't complain, no. I have my bed and my aching bones to keep me company. And that's all I need from this world.
She hasn't spoken to anyone for a while. Even her sentences feel rusty.
Ask away, policeman. The hell am I supposed to know? Another nut job, I assume. Some lunatic lost his mind. All kinds of morons pass through these halls. The artiste? Nothing I can do about her, I'm afraid. She ruins the walls faster than I can clean them. Still, she leaves an old lady to her business. More than I can say for others.
She mumbles some kind of a response, then hacks something into her handkerchief. You hear someone walking around inside, rearranging the furniture. The number on the panel says 10. The walking stops abruptly, but no one comes to the door. Sounded like a woman. A woman's shoes. A poor communard, from the looks of it. The room is barely bigger than a closet.
Do I have to open the door? Do you have a warrant? I'm not obligated to open the door if you don't have a warrant.
Let's go. We don't have a reason to get inside that apartment.
It's generally easier to do things if you have literally any reason. This door has been closed with a padlock. A chalk-drawn number on the board says, number 11. It's a solid lump of metal, but the shackle is deeply corroded. A solid pair of chain cutters would make short work of it. Better whip out those cutters. You won't get very far otherwise. No reply. This door has been closed with a pad. What are you doing? You're trying to cut the body of the lock with the chain cutters, and it's really not working.
I believe it's the shackle you mean to cut, Detective. Perhaps you should give it another go.
The shackle snaps like a twig, and the lock falls to the floor with a little thud. It should be possible to enter now.
After you, Detective.
A plaster cast bust depicts a middle-aged man with impressive sideburns. The name on the plinth reads, Kraz Marzov. Honestly, he does kind of look like you after all.
Hold on a second. Is this why you broke in here? To find out whether you're Krasmazov? Sure it is.
The lieutenant doesn't even bother to reply to this.
The White Star, the photos on the wall. I think we have broken into the apartment of a young communard. How fitting. I suspect that's exactly what they are trying to do. There aren't many communists around, not after the revolution. Some youth still keep the ideology going, it seems. He was definitely controversial. The tenant here seems to like him. There aren't many communists around, not after the revolution. Some youth still keep the ideology.
There it is. You picked the best one. This soldier, get a load of this rock and roll cop here, people. Johnny Thundercop fishes a cheap lighter out of his pants. With a flick of the thumb, there's fire. A primal satisfaction. Here we go. The lighter's dark green disposable plastic. Safety's off. In your case, the safety is always off. Repercussions? There's a high risk of glory, with a mild chance cool genius. Smoking makes you into an intellectual. Everybody knows that. It will help you concentrate a bit. That much is true. Thick, warm smoke gets sucked down into your lungs. Immediately, you feel a warm nostalgia fill your head, body, and soul. A nostalgia for yourself. The man you were in your youth. Johnny Thundercop is back, and he's chill as balls.
In the bottom right corner of the screen, there's a cigarettes button. Cigarettes gives +1 to intellect skills. Logic, rhetoric, conceptualization, visual calculus, encyclopedia, and drama. This is good before a white check, but damages your health.
This door is made of metal and appears to be reinforced. Someone here really values their security. Number 28. This is where the cleaning lady said the smoker on the balcony lives.
Let's see if anyone's home. Knock on the door.
No one answers.
Looks like the young man we are looking for isn't home. I think our best chance to catch him is in the evening. We should return tonight after we have finished with our day's work. How about 9 p.m.? Sound good? Tonight at 9 p.m., right here, apartment number 28. Good, let's go.
Good. What can I help you with? More lessons in basic reality? My favorite part of the day. Go ahead, ask me anything. These are unimportant times, Detective. You and I were born after the dust had settled. 1,000th of a second too late. For the big time. The revolution. It's quite easy. Every 100 years or so, our species gets together to decide what's next, who gets shot in the head, and who gets the mineral rights. It's a real kerfuffle. Those would be the communists. Generally speaking, 40 million people got shot in the head during the World Revolution. But the communists, they all got shot in the head. Oh, and the anarchists too. They shot them well. So well, one forgets they even existed.
She likes the totality of it.
Indeed. They piled them in mass graves in Ozon. And, well, that's the last anyone heard of those people. Did they ever? Before they got shot themselves, they shot 2 million people. Yes, the Red Deluge. The Insulindian Deluge, they call it. Yes, an acute thiamine deficiency can be exacerbated by alcoholism. Exacerbated means made worse. Oh, lots of people. Even the king got shot in the head, or thrown beneath a horse, or drowned. Accounts differ. It was unceremonious. Just as well, he wasn't actually the king. Just the king's nephew. The real king abdicated and lived out a long and productive life as a venture capitalist in Grad. Yes, King Guillaume had a nose for bad PR. He ran before it. What is the expression? Went down? Anyway, Gil got out alive and his nephew Frisell got shot in his place. Him and tens of thousands of his wonderfully fascist kingsmen. It was a wild time. The liberals got the mineral rights. And by mineral rights, I mean everything. Liberals are usually middle-class people, Detective. Or the remaining gentry. The beneficiaries of the pre-revolutionary arrangement. Some were rich enough to stay with the Constitution, with monarchy. Big mistake. Others bet on the revolution. They were called the ultras, or ultra-liberals. They fared well. They didn't win so much as survive. We were the last ones standing when the war ended. Everyone else got shot in the head, remember?
We. She's one of them. Of course.
To foreign intervention. The coalition. Those people really took the mineral rights. The coalition of nations. Grad, Mesk, Vesper, Messina, Oranje, and Sur-le-Clay. The armed center of the world. They landed here and ended the revolution. It was the moralist thing to do. The moralists believe in keeping everything exactly the way it is. They believe in mineral rights, and not shooting people in the head. At least not in the same manner and volume as the others do. They are the long-standing provisional rulers of Revachol now, the coalition government.
The rulers of Revachol, and also the world. These guys are strong.
This is their zone of control. They embolden the RCM with crumbs of the same law they took. Technically speaking, you are a moralist.
The color of moralism is blue. The official motto of Moral Intern, or Moralist International, is a blue forget-me-not, a piece of grey sky. Unofficial. For a moment, there was hope.
An almost endearingly moralist standpoint. It must be hard to take a moderate approach to head shooting in your line of work. The turn of the century revolution? Don't answer it. It's a trick question. The revolution began in '02 on the Isla of Grad, though by the end nearly the whole world had gotten involved. It wasn't a who, but a what. A pandemic of Zarat, a particularly virulent prion disease, which the authorities in Grad proved unable to contain. Then Marzolf came along and overthrew the government. It made people overthrow their governments. Of course not. It was a highly infectious microorganism that destroyed brain tissue. The actual causes of the revolution were material. The pandemic only provided the spark.
It was a funny time in history. They discovered transistors and rock music, but they didn't know anything about prions. Nobody did.
From Revachol and Grad? Not far. The world managed to cauterize itself. Marzolf's government was overthrown in '08, and the coalition crushed the Revachol commune 2 years later. It was the end. Why? You and I, officer. Our lives in the zone of control. A city-state divided into free market zones under the everlasting interregnum of the Coalition of Nations, and you, of course, the citizens' militia. The zone of control is the third incarnation of Revachol, after the failure of the suzerain and the commune. Modernity. They developed the marvels of the inter-Islary communication. Telematic milieus, radiation, colored plastics. Meanwhile, in Revachol West, the aftermath continues for the 5th decade.
51 minus 8 equals 43.
Time flies. The 20s saw a decade of urban war, west of the river leveled, offshore platforms in flames. Still, it's regarded as an improvement on what came before. '08 to '19 was simply hell. The 30s? Things settled down in the 30s. Revachol East transformed itself into the world's largest tax haven, with the international community's blessing. For the first time in a long time, it seemed like things were going somewhere.
All that untaxed income must have fueled the new. That can only mean one thing.
Yes, and quantitative easing. It was a market mirage, unfortunately. The 40s dispelled it. An Isla-wide hangover, you might say. So, here we are. Welcome to reality, baby.
For her to be where she is, Wild Pines Group must have picked the right side.
They picked the winning side. That's why they're here, and others are not. Perhaps it wouldn't have turned out that way had I been in charge. I might have bet on the king and led the Pines to doom. I would have sided with the cannons. If you'd seen the calibers of the things, you might have too. Perhaps it's better I was born when I was. 10 of the 14 Indo tribes got it wrong. Feld, Kupri, Tricentennial. So I suppose I would have been in good company. Good question. What would you have done differently? So a quarter of humanity simply lost their minds. And how would you stop a prion, a complex folding protein, unlife, with the technology 50 years ago? Good hygiene. Really. A very moderate solution to an extreme problem. It's those sort of half measures that doomed the authorities in Grad. When they failed to step up, Marzov and his party stepped in. In this particular case, maybe a more robust state response might have been appropriate.
Opinions expressed here do not reflect the official position of the RCM.
And what is your official position, Lieutenant?
My position, ma'am? My parents got ripped to shreds in the revolution. I would have gone the same way. I was saved by being 2 years old. That's my position. The abattoir.
Understandable. They are what they are. Who knows? An afterbloom may yet come. Anyway, enough sentimentality. Is there anything else you want to know?
Not so fast. Who is she in all this? Ask her who she is. She owes you an answer. She won't maneuver her way out of this one.
I am the vilest of the vile. A traitor. A devourer of nations and infants. I am an ultra.
She raises the corner of her mouth, smirking, revealing a canine.
An ultra-liberal. It's a type of liberal. From the revolution. It's, not the moderate kind. Haven't you heard? I am a nether creature of the Forbidden Swamp. One of those who pushed the king under a shit wagon and betrayed the revolution. I can see you thought I'd gone extinct. No sane person identifies as an ultra-liberal anymore. Not in broad daylight. You're a centrist at heart. A real moralist. Tell me, now that I've uncoiled myself, do you find me frightening?
In her green eyes you see a mixture of truth and self-satire. Decades of guilt and pride.
A fitting punishment. To be forgotten, if not forgiven. Save a prayer for us in our chateaus on Ozon and in Stella Maris. When the dust settled, the liberals were the only ones left to clean up the mess. By virtue of their survival, they were handed enormous power to shape the future. This was all our last generation managed. With due respect to our overlords, the eternal caretaker government that keeps Martinez a monument to the efficacy of its artillery, I would not have relinquished sovereignty to the Coalition. Not here in Martinez, and not in the Stella Maris or Delta Beachheads either. If not for my own sake.
She realizes her small, cold fists are clenched. She loosens them.
Then for my daughters. We had an obligation to defend our sovereignty. We should have burned the whole Isola down rather than let them have it. Perhaps my intellectual vanity will be my undoing.
You're no dummy yourself.
A smart boy getting smarter, one basic term of reality at a time. Yes, I suppose I am. But I wouldn't be a patriot anywhere but here.
Seditious talk, man.
Yes. Whatever else I am, I'm also a mother. And a wife. Now, shall we return to reality? It's a neurological disorder caused by a lack of vitamin B in the brain. Symptoms include a retrograde amnesia. It's quite serious. You should get yourself checked out. Well, it's either bariatric surgery or long-term alcohol use.
She nods slowly.
A bird? A sphenicid? A flightless bird of the polar regions? Ah! This is the pier of Rue de Saint-Ghislain, 33A, where the tenants have been kind enough to rent me a slot. Or two. A pre-revolutionary tenement. Old buildings are called tenements, you see. And new buildings, bâtiments. After les bâtiments nouveaux. But 33A and 33B are not nouveau. They're old. This one used to be 8 to 10 stories tall. A real high-rise by the standards of the last century. Built to mirror the skyscrapers across the bay in the Delta. That was before the war, of course. Mostly the urban middle class, I believe. This was once primo real estate, before the cannons lopped 4 or 5 stories off.
Splat, splat.
You could be wrong, but from here it appears as if she's running the brush across her throat in a soaring motion.
Wonderful. The girl in the old lady rags. Looks like a sullen and rebellious member of a teen infraculture. Yes, you and I belong to the supraculture. We're common, the herd. The music on the radio, the food in the chain restaurant, those are all too popular for the girl in the old lady rags. She prefers a fantasy world, an infraculture with its own dress code and vernacular. It is an illusion, I'm afraid. There is no refuge from the supraculture. I can't. That's how simple it is. One may dye their hair green and wear their grandma's coat all they want. Capital has the ability to subsume all critiques into itself. Even those who would critique capital end up reinforcing it instead. All right. What next?
Suddenly, you're not so sure you're part of the supraculture.
And what would that be?
She lets out an unrestrained laugh, the crow's feet stretching onto her cheeks.
My reality-impaired colleague is not so far off. Many of the RCM's fashions, even weapon preferences, borrow heavily from classic Vespertine cop shows. My precinct alone has 3 officers who go by the name Ace. But please, do continue this reality exploration. I was just remarking.
Yes, let's. Glad to have been of assistance. The little that I know. Anything you have? And how did you like Mr. Clare?
Finally, time to choose sides.
Oh, come on now. He has his uses. How else would he have stayed in power all these years? Or wait, actually, corruption. That's how he's done it. Fantastic, Verm-like corruption, reaching into the bowels of the earth.
The position of my unusual colleague does not reflect official policy. I hope you understand. The RCM does not pick sides.
Of course. And I don't expect you to share anything he told you with me. I'm not a corrupt Verm myself. However, if you felt like discussing something, how could I stop you? Are we not human? Are we not curious to hear another person's take? It's only natural. We would only be gossiping.
Intellectually speaking, it would be quite interesting to hear what she has to say about these things. Tell her she'll like you for it.
Oh. That's so helpful of him.
The lieutenant looks at you, and you can swear his jaw muscle is trembling. He's able to contain the anger and surprise.
Unconventional police officers sometimes lose their guns. They then go around and tell people about this, to gauge their reactions. It's all part of detecting.
Incredible. Simply incredible. And how is it going? Has this detecting produced a gun? Well, maybe he's not as helpful as you thought then. Is there anything else? Did you now? What sort of borscht is he making? The strike brew. That's a classic. And by turn up the heat, I presume you mean put more alcohol in it? Beyond curious. I will choose to interpret that as you turning the alcohol in the strike brew down. For the sake of our professional relationship. And because I don't like the idea of them any more drunk than they already are. What else? Of course, Detective. Should something come up later, down the road, don't be afraid to drop by for a chat. Until then, is there anything I can help you with? Word has traveled, yes, but nothing of real substance has surfaced yet, I gather. Wild Pines has eyes on the intersection, but not ears.
One of the tall buildings overlooking the roundabout. It would give them a read on the entire quarter.
It appears we are being monitored every step we take, colleague. Did we have any other business here?
The bullet is still safely sealed away in a rifle, revolutionary period. Your bullet looks to be an old 4.46mm from the surplus left over from the turn of the century. Probably an antique or a retrofitted antique. The 4.46 caliber was widely used with the Belmargrave rifle, a Revacholian manufacturer. The BM dominated the battlefields of the Insulindian theater of the anti-centennial revolution 50 years ago. No, but Zeliger, a major firearm manufacturer, ended up with a surplus after the war, so there are still a lot of these old military rifles floating around, usually broken. The quality was appalling. Antiques enthusiasts, guerrilla fighters in distant countries, a few lucky jamrock bangers. You're looking for a well-preserved antique, most likely.
What are you thinking? Bullet? Okay. And? An antique. That makes sense. There can't be many breech-loading rifles floating around in Martinez, or anywhere in Ravachol, really. I have to hand it to the monarchs. It's quite admirable that they took the advice of criminologists last century and banned the use of breech-loaders in peacetime. Some new RCM recruits get impatient with their muzzleloaders once they've trained with military-grade weapons, but they realize it's worth it in the end.
Prohibiting peacetime law enforcement to front-loaded rifles is a policy enforced by the Moralist International in all the nations of the Real Belt.
Imagine if everyone, cops, citizens, had access to firearms that could shoot multiple rounds without pausing to reload. After the first shot, the second, third, and so on come much easier. But back to the investigation. Doesn't seem that likely, but we'll check out all possible leads. Next step, finding the gun itself.
Inside, you see a set of steering levers.
This is Precinct 57. How may I assist you? Sir, officer. What's the number? And the make of the armor, if you know it. Got it. I'll contact the ICP database immediately. Call back tomorrow. Hopefully they'll have dug up something useful by then.
The International Collaboration Police, ICP, is an inter-Isoleri law enforcement service, the crown jewel in the moral intern diadem, alongside EPIS and the coalition government.
It will take just a moment, officer.
Her voices fade out into the familiar radio static.
Gottlieb, what do you want?
He's carelessly chewing on a piece of hard candy.
Oh, it's you. With all the damage you've been dealing yourself with drugs and alcohol, I'm not surprised. What else? I'm not a brain doctor. Look on the bright side. You've got a whole new life now. Use it wisely.
It's hard to say if he doesn't believe you or doesn't care.
Yes, there's no end to the misfortunes fate has seen fit to rain upon me. Oh, spare me the sad, drunken blubbering and get on with it. What's your complaint? That's because you're hung over. Even the radio waves coming from your direction smell like liquor. Do you feel like your eyes are twitching too? That's the tiny vessels pulsating from high blood pressure, stupid officer. You might be sustaining permanent damage to your vision as we speak. Not much I can do about it. I'm not an eye doctor. The busy kind. It's not life-threatening, just annoying for you. I've got more important things to do here.
It certainly does not help with aiming.
And you survived it. Congratulations. Are you mobile? Even better. Anything else? I wouldn't worry about that. Officers your age have coronary trouble all the time. Also, death is a natural part of life. Look, pal, getting pumped and dumped is not a disease. People live through it all the time. You should be happy for her. You must have me confused for a close personal friend. I am not. I am a medical professional with a constant idiot emergency on my hands.
You hear someone whine in the background. My eye, Doc, my eye.
What? You want me to do blood work for you again? Tell you just how bad things really are across the board? You want another rundown of everything collapsing inside your body? You want the real, honest-to-God truth? Stop drinking, eat magnesium and vitamin D. Our station is not a retirement home. We don't have the funds to deal with rock stars past their prime. And no, I don't want to hear a political commentary on the topic. In fact, I got work to do. Some idiot has glued his eyelids shut with cyanoacrylate. It looks like Mactorson.
It's not fucking cryoacrylate. It's super glue, Doc.
Cyanoacrylate is superglue.
Mm-hmm. Anything else I can help you with, officer? No. And I doubt they'll get back to me before tomorrow morning. Anything else? 57th, over and...
In the cabin, you see...
Yes? What do you want to know? What's there to say? It's just stupidity. The cop kind. Our precincts can't decide if Martinez is part of Jamrock or the Industrial Harbor. Yours or mine, as if we somehow own parts of the city. Typical street gang mentality. So we've let the Union make a mockery of law enforcement here. And now it's come to its natural conclusion. Well, sort of. It's less a matter of who gets to police Martinez than who has to. It's an orphan district, in other words. I think the dispatch desk just told both our stations about the hanging. There was quite the brouhaha at the 57th, I can tell you that. Time to settle it, they said. Cop off. But I assure you, I am not their finest or toughest, with 102 cases solved. What I am is least interested in a pissing competition.
So, he volunteered to represent the 57th, but not out of competitiveness. On the contrary, somewhere in your mind hangs a dark green blackboard. There are two columns. One says, cases solved. The other, confirmed kills. The rows are endless. Jean Vicmer, Judith Minot, a special consultant. What was his name? Then the rows degrade into green nothingness.
Well, technically, the official record keeper has been known to double-count murder-suicides.
A common accounting gimmick used to inflate precinct stats.
I'm good enough for this case. I'm not here to compete. I came because I had to. My fellow officers, the sergeants in particular, would have made this scene into a circus. Yes, I'm an unrepentant spoilsport. Martinez? Nothing. It's just a puddle at the end of some drain pipe. No one cares about this place. They care about sports. Most of our colleagues don't even know how to get here. North of the interchange doesn't exist.
It's all part of the master plan, you see. The silence carries.
Yes, it's a wholly pointless matter. Forget I ever mentioned it.
Because you're the best qualified. No, that doesn't seem right. You look dumb if you keep the lieutenant waiting for too long.
Is this...
A small cabinet on the wall is filled with various medicine bottles, nasal sprays, and blister.
Okay, here. Okay, here. Okay, here. I hope Saint Baptiste. Okay, here. I hope. Okay, here. I hope Saint Baptiste makes you feel better or something. Okay, here.
The tear machine. Your bottles clump. Wow, a very large red t-shirt with an impressive print stands out from the other garb. Oh yeah, the print depicts a muscled man striding toward you, a giant sword in each hand, encircled by burning embers. Behind him is a cluster of cabins engulfed in flames. Beneath him are the words, Hjelmdal burning. Smells like worn cotton and a little old sweat there. Worn cotton with a side of flea market or trash bin.
Sniffing is okay, but please don't try anything on. Can't have you leaving your photon emissions in the fabric of things you're not going to buy. 2 real.
That's dirt cheap.
But why? I deal in goods, not services. Hell yeah, man. I don't usually carry printed teas, but this one was just pure exemplar. A fan? No, I wouldn't go that far. But I do think the Hjelmdalaman saga is an integral part of our shared reality. Most people don't think that the man from Hjelmdal really existed, but they're wrong. I mean, even if the man from Hjelmdal didn't exist before the adventure novels, the stories have made it so that he has. It's simple, really.
Okay.
You sound skeptical. It's not that complicated. All that's required is a more robust understanding of cause and effect. Besides, I've been to Kotla, though not quite as far north as the Hjelmdal, and watched northern lights travel across the sky. Very unique, energetic tides there.
It's for the best, because Hjelmdal is not a real place, and thus he could not have gone there. His theory isn't exactly incoherent, but its logic does suggest some unusual neural activity. Interesting.
Welcome to Hjelmdal, officer.
You see rows of toy soldiers. The boomboxes wait on the shelves, and your boombox, that gold and amber Harman Waushi.
If police work means playing tapes, sure. You can use it for that. Or any other time you'd need to play a tape. Hello, hello. Let me know if I can help you with anything. You said you'd done it before, yeah?
The lieutenant steps away, pretending to admire some of the knickknacks on display. Looks like he doesn't want to get involved. He won't be your nog, but he won't be thrilled about this either.
If you say so. Here you go, man.
Yes, darling. That's the coalition government ordained Parolidon. Straight into your gut.
I respect your decision, officer. What else can I help you with? Someone else came here earlier today asking the same question. I promptly...
This is a pawn shop, and it did feel as if you've met. The lieutenant shifts from one foot to another, alert.
Maybe. Shady-looking guys came in here yesterday, looking like they'd just taken off their Wild Pines overalls. They asked if I have a police weapon to sell. I told them I already sold it. They went their way. It was a trip, but you know, all sorts of people come here, asking for all sorts of things.
Maybe Claire really is tracking down your gun.
People as oleaginous as Evra seem like they're lying, even when they're really being truthful.
Sure, man. Sure. Let me have a look. Anything else you're thinking of selling? Another time, perhaps.
A rusting control panel with you. You grab the handle and pull the lever up. As soon as the metal connects against the contact pins, you hear a loud clunk. Then, the water lock starts moving.
Okay, if we ever need to get to the coast, then this is the way. But please, contain your wanderlust for now. I don't want us to get sidetracked, not with everything that's going on.